Good morning and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Joined today by Mr. Greg Spiers, who is a candidate for BESE District 6. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for being here. I know our audience appreciates it. And I, as usual, when I have a guest, I'm going to roll through the rest of this very quickly. Remember, you can always catch these shows later if you miss them at www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. We have audio and video versions there for you to check out. Please do at your earliest convenience. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube once a week in print on Thursdays. And again, we're online as we mentioned. Your traffic today going to be a rough one on I-12 westbound. 3 wrecks, one in Airline, one in O'Neill, and one in Dim Springs. Please seek alternate routes. A lot of people already doing that. 4-H Club Road, 4-H Club Road, Florida Boulevard, and River Road all backed up as folks are trying to go a different direction. As Mr. Spiers mentioned this morning, it was already getting backed up on Juban Road and 190. Also, some heavy delays on Burgess heading into Florida as folks drop their kids off at school. Heavy delays on Hatchell Lane and 16 in Denham Springs, and heavy delays in Watson. So it's heavy delay kind of day, long travel day. Please just prepare for that. It's currently 74 degrees. It's going to get hot today. 81 is your high. The rain is coming in tomorrow. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Might have some showers again today, but it will be relatively hot considering. Mr. Denny Perkins has his 313 hearing this morning. Again, that is a Gwynn's Law hearing. We will get the results of that. Mr. David Gray is heading up there to check that out as I will be sitting here with Mr. Spiers. Big Mike will be celebrating his 30th anniversary this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. in his parking lot. There'll be live music and food. Please check that out. We have a video up on our Facebook page. Early voting starts this Saturday, November 2nd, 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily, not Sundays. Do not go vote on Sunday, at either the satellite location at the Denham Springs Walker Branch Library or the Registrar of Voters office in Livingston. Lots of things, lots of runoffs to vote on. Yours is one, in BESE District 6. We also have runoffs for Governor, Secretary of State, Parish Council District 6, 21st Judicial Court Judge, and there's yours, and there's one I'm missing. I can't come up with it at the moment. I will probably think of it in a second. Excuse me. There's I mentioned Parish Council District 6, didn't I? Yes. I did. I'll think of it. We will be doing our football show after this. Please keep an eye out for that. I think we're actually going to have another game move up to Thursday this week. Please keep an eye out. Again, I'll be sitting down with Rob DeArmond and William Weathers to record that. So, last but certainly not least, we did get confirmation yesterday. Trunk or Treat is still on for tomorrow, Thursday, at South Park, beginning at 5 p.m. Please come on out, support that. And I figured out the last election. How could I forget House Seat 71 between Mr. Buddy Mincini and Lori Calais. So, with that being said, Mr. Spiers, good morning again.
Good morning.
Let's first talk about yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, your career path, that sort of thing. Take it away.
Yeah, so I grew up in Amite, Louisiana. Went to public schools there, K through 12, and graduated from Amite High School in 1995. Went off to the military, joined the Navy, and became a Navy SEAL. Spent 4 years in there until I came back home one Christmas on leave. Met my now wife for 21 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And ended up getting out of the military, coming back home and going to Southeastern. Getting a degree there and going to work into industry. But so that's kind of where I came from.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit about you had some teaching experience, and you and I talked briefly about it before the show started. Tell us a little bit about that. As at Ponchatoula High School, correct?
Yeah. So teaching was always a passion of mine, and coaching football. And when I started out my college career, I started in math education. Was going to be a math teacher. But as many of us know, life sometimes gets in the way. I had to change over to computer science and spent 8.5 years in the IT field, and I got laid off when I was working out of state. So while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life, I decided to go be a substitute teacher at Ponchatoula High School. And one thing led to another. I got hired on full time there permanently, and got a math class. Got to coach football, which was a dream of mine.
There you go.
And I actually got some good playoff wins with Ponchatoula High School.
Hey.
So that I did that. I was there for a couple of years, and then life happened again, and I went back into the IT field where I've spent the remainder of my 17-year history there.
Gotcha. So when we're talking about, so you're running for BESE board, you're in a runoff against Ronnie Morris, Baton Rouge. BESE District 6 is parts of East Baton Rouge, Livingston, Tangi, and Washington Parish.
And
Ascension, excuse me. So a big area. When you were first thinking about running for this seat, what was going through your mind?
Well, just getting into politics. I've never run for a political office before, so the history of Louisiana politics, especially, has not always been a great one, and so I was looking forward to learning that process, guarding myself against what would potentially come my way. I'm very thankful that our race has been a fairly good race, no mudslinging for the most part, and so thank my opponents for that, and I certainly have kept a positive campaign. But to get to the deeper issue, education in our state is, on a whole, is terrible, and it has been for a long time. And the people that we have on the BESE board currently, and that was recently reelected to the BESE board for another 4 years, they have ideas of reforming our education that don't align with our teaching community and our parents and our administrators at our schools. They kind of have their own agenda that they're going after, and mine is the only runoff in the BESE race. All the other incumbents have gotten reelected, and we need a public school candidate on that board.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so let's take a step back. I mean, that is, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I appreciate you breaking that up, because there was a lot of interesting money spent on this election. Not just yours, but the rest of the board. Let's talk about BESE, and as you were saying, you were thinking about education and politics with your mindset. What is your understanding of what the BESE board does?
Mm-hmm. So BESE, they are responsible for creating policy that is dictated over all the public schools in the state of Louisiana, all 69 school districts. So they are over teacher certification. They are over curriculum. They have absorbed some of the discipline policies over the years that I believe needs to go back to the local school districts. Mm-hmm. I won't go through my whole list, but sure. I really do want to give more power and authority back to our local school districts that have been stripped from them in the last few terms.
Okay. And, excuse me, if you were, we're rolling through the whole thing here, so you thought about it, you got into it, you kind of understand what BESE's doing. With that understanding, in your opinion, what's BESE doing well? We're going to start there first, and then we'll talk about what they're doing not so well.
Yeah, so BESE has a big role. There's 11 members on that board, 8 elected and 3 appointed, and they oversee education. They steer the ship for the entire state, and that's a big responsibility for 11 people.
Right.
They have a budget of just over $4 billion. They have over 700,000 public school students that they're responsible for educating, and just keeping that ship moving is a good job in itself.
Right.
Now, the direction that ship is heading, that's a different discussion.
Right.
But
well, I mean, let's talk about the direction that ship is heading. I mean, that's what you brought up as sort of a deeper feel here. Talk about the things first before we talk about maybe a direction for the ship. Things that you believe that BESE may not be doing so well.
Mm. So there's a clear agenda in BESE, and it's come from out of state. Out of state, the Walton family that owns Walmart, Michael Bloomberg, that's from New York City, owns textbook companies. They have spent millions and millions of dollars in the Louisiana education BESE races over the last 3 terms now. Over $3 million just spent in this election on the BESE race. My campaign itself, who made it into a runoff with 40,000 votes nearly, spent $6,000.
Right.
So you can, going up against the machine that is pushing Common Core, and yes, we do still have Common Core in the state of Louisiana. It's not called Common Core anymore. It's called the Louisiana State Student Standards. But if you hold up the Common Core standards and the Louisiana State Student Standards side by side, they're nearly identical. So when we have politicians that say we don't have Common Core anymore, we have a good system in place, which I read an article in the Livingston Parish News that the other BESE members that were reelected put out a couple of weeks ago. They said we have a good system in place. It's working. We don't have Common Core anymore. We're against Common Core, but that's just not true. And I'm appalled that they would say that to our teaching community and our parents that struggle because they can't help their children with their homework at night. That they say that our policies are working. It's a disgrace.
Well, and those are strong words. And so let's talk about the teaching community. You've brought them up several times. As a former teacher yourself, I'm sure you're part of, try to combine yourself with sure there. I'm sure that you have relationships with these teachers. What are some of and even from your own teaching experience, what are some of the frustrations you experience? Just even on a day-to-day basis with constantly changing and constantly evolving standards and practices that in some cases you don't even understand.
Yeah. So just briefly, as a former Navy SEAL, sometimes people think, this guy's hard. He has no feelings. He's a warrior. I'm a softie. I gush over Hallmark shows. And one of my wife and I's favorite shows is When Calls the Heart. And it's about this old expansion town teacher. And I won't go into the whole show, but when we think of old school teaching, that's what it was about. It was about teachers that cared about their students and their communities, and the parents and the people of those communities sent their kids there, trusting that teacher that they were going to teach them the correct things and to prepare them for life. Teaching has evolved over time into something that is not desirable anymore. As I've gone around on the campaign trail in this election, the single biggest issue one of the single biggest issues that I've come across is the burden of the state on our teaching community. Right. There was actually a poll taken on Facebook the other day that said 96% of our teachers that responded to this poll would prefer a lighter workload than a raise. That's crazy because our teachers are underpaid. For what they do. They're not only responsible for teaching content to our students, they're doctors, they're counselors, they're first responders. They have all these roles. They're responsible for giving kids medications that might die otherwise if they don't take it. And the kids don't say, "Hey, it's time for me to take my medicine." No. These teachers have these classrooms with special needs children, and they've not been trained on how to deal with special needs. I just have a math certification. I don't know how to address someone with autism in my class, or some sort of handicap. And they have to document everything. They spend their Saturdays lesson planning and their evenings grading papers, and they are just overwhelmed with the red tape and the burden that our state has placed on them.
And it's hard to imagine that they're not. As you mentioned, and a lot of times when you really start digging deep on the role of the teacher, you do find those levels of, even if I hate to bring it up, but school intrusion. They're first defenders. There's just a lot of roles that go on for teachers that aren't known or noticed, or people just don't realize them at first. So that. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss this morning in terms of, let's ask this question, okay? So we've talked about several things here. The interesting thing is you're going to be on a board. and you're going to be with several other people. So, you kind of said you're a softie. What's the voice that you're bringing? Would you say it's the voice of the public school system?
Absolutely. The other members on that board, they are more geared towards business. And as a conservative Republican, I love business. I think that we need to do a better job of getting business and education working together. There's plenty of examples where that exact thing is working. Here in Livingston Parish at Walker High School, they have partnered with Jerry Lane Automotive to bring a car body shop repair program to their school. They have a drone program, which is, I think, really cool. I went and spoke with Mr. St. Pierre the other day, and he was telling me about it. Hammond High School has partnered with private industries like Energy that are donating money for an after-school tutoring program for grades 2 through 8. So I absolutely think that business and education should go together, and they could help each other thrive. But on the BESE board, it seems that our elected officials are geared towards all business. They want to open up all these charter schools and privatize our education with taxpayer funds, and they want to control where that $4 billion is being spent, a lot of times in the wrong places. And they're disregarding the voices of our teaching community, of our parents that are struggling with these Common Core standards and the curriculum that go along with those standards.
Any final remarks that you'd like to make here today?
Yeah, I just would love for your viewers and that hear my voice this morning would share my name, Greg Spiers, number 47 on the ballot this November 16th, with their friends and their family and everybody that they can think of, because we are going up against a machine that has billboards and TV commercials and radio ads, and there's no way I can outspin my opponent. But I have a wonderful grassroots movement, and I'm counting on all of your listeners to do their research and to spread that word.
Well, and I know they appreciate you taking the time to come be on this show, and as do I. Thank you, sir, for being here. Please remember that, again, Election Day is November 16th. Early voting begins this Saturday, November 2nd. It starts at 8:30 a.m. and runs to 6 p.m. daily, not Sunday. Can't vote on Sunday. It is at the Denham Springs Walker Branch Library, as well as the Registrar of Voters office in Livingston. Again, Mr. Spiers, appreciate you joining us this morning. Appreciate you watching this morning, as if you are out there. If you're listening to this later or watching it, I know Mr. Spiers and I appreciate that as well. Thank you for that. He and I are going to take a break, and then we're going to sit down for a longer form podcast. Going to be talking about some of those issues just a little deeper. And obviously, he's not a man to shy away from saying speaking how he feels, which is great. Makes for a great interview. Once again, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning for the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. We are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We're once a week in print on Thursdays. We're also online, as mentioned, www.livingstonparishnews.com. I'll be back in the booth tomorrow morning, and then Brian Abels, who is running for 21st Judicial Court Judge Division D, a lot of D's in there, will be with us on Friday morning. Thanks again for joining us. We hope the day gets a little brighter for you, and you enjoy this Wednesday.